Hello and welcome back to Umineko. When last we left off, Anji of the future was on her way to Rokkenjima proper to continue her investigation, and on the way had managed to reconcile her feelings on magic with her feelings about Beatrice the witch, and come to a somewhat happy conclusion. It was already approaching 10 o'clock at night. By now the typhoon had wrapped itself around Rokkenjima. Even the rose garden that had looked so beautiful midday was beaten down upon by the fierce winds and resisted with all its might, undulating and trying to keep the flowers from blowing away. In that rose garden was Shannon in the lead, Battler holding up an umbrella, Jessica and George carrying the sleeping Maria on his back, all heading for the guest house.
We can at least make it to the guest house from here. Shannon, it's fine. You should go back and rest.
Don't worry, seeing you off is also part of my duty.
The family conference is going on inside, and Mom and Genji-san are probably getting stressed. If we keep you, they'll misunderstand and think you were being lazy.
That's right. Just graciously accepting our offer might be the best way to avoid burdening people. Thank you, Shannon. Not at all. Certainly, as Milady has said, it is very tense inside the mansion today. Therefore, coming with all of you allowed me a breath of fresh air, and I've been able to relax a bit.
The family conference, huh? They went to all the trouble of chasing us kids out, so they're probably talking about something shady.
Probably. I'm sure there's nothing we can do to help out. Just trying to stay out of their way is probably the best way for us to be useful.
I'm sure it's all just money. Even though they act like they're so rich most of the time, when it gets tough, they all start getting pushy. Why don't they just be graceful and split it evenly between everyone? That'd be awesome. It'd be so nice. It'd be nice if I got a share too. If I got some too, I'd split it with Shannon-chan right away.
Thank you very much. Well, I appreciate the sentiment. Shannon isn't greedy at all. Normally, girls of your age would have tons of things they'd want to buy. I guess. But none of the things I want can be bought with money.
Ooh, how unselfish. If you lined up all the things I wanted, all the gold in the world wouldn't be enough. And that's if you're talking about things that can be bought with money. I wonder what these things that can't be bought with money that Shannon wants are. Do you have any idea, George Nissan?
Well, I wonder. I'm not Shannon, so how could I know? I don't know either. George and Shannon looked down, their faces red. Battler had also heard about what was going on with them, so he knew what Jessica was teasing them about.
George Aniki is a person I respect. I think you've met up with a really great person, Shannon-chan.
Yeah, I also feel relieved that we can leave Shannon to George Nissan. Stop teasing. It's a serious issue for us. More importantly, what about you, Jessica-chan? Have you been able to get a little closer to Canon-kun?
What? So you and Canon-kun are like that?
Well, that's dirty, George. Twisting the conversation around like that's dirty. As they had an animated discussion with ups and downs, the four kids headed for the guest house. The annual family conference was extremely important to the Ashuramiya family, and this year seemed like it was going to be especially important. Apparently, the family head, Kinzo, was personally going to be making a very serious announcement, and everyone other than the adults had been strictly ordered to leave. Battler hadn't attended the family conference in 6 years, so he didn't really notice. But according to Jessica, there seemed to be a very tense atmosphere tonight. Completely different from a normal year. Common sense made it clear that Kinzo, whose remaining life was short, was going to make some big announcement about the succession of the headship and the distribution of his fortune.
But I'm surprised. To think that grandfather's actually going to make an appearance. I see. So this is the witch's counterattack.
I wanted to leave the Joker called Kinzo face down a little longer, but it's probably about time to turn it over. Trump cards exist to be used.
Damn! My theory that grandfather was dead since the beginning and a different 18th person had snuck in is now suddenly torn apart.
I had foreseen that you'd begin to doubt Kinzo eventually. Yes, now your reasoning has all gone back to square one again, right? With this, your theory that Kinzo was dead at the very beginning and I was hiding as the 18th person goes poof.
Fuck. But no way I'll lose heart. That's only one theory gone. I'll attack you like a storm, like a tornado.
I'd have it no other way. Even the first twilight has not yet begun. It is far too early to give up.
That's right. And it's not like it was denied with the red truth. At this point in time, Battler's theory hasn't been defeated. It's too early to say that you've won. Yeah, that's right. It's still too early for me to just swallow her story. Grandfather is supposed to finally appear. But there's a chance that they'll talk about how his health has gotten worse and he won't appear after all. Uncle Kraus might be trying desperately to hide the fact that grandfather really is dead until the last second.
Huh. I see. You could also think of it that way. Do as you please. It will be resolved soon. Very soon. All of the relatives and Nanjo could be seen in the dining hall. Nanjo sat alone, quietly watching the wind and rain outside. Kraus sat down in the seat of his own rank, with Natsuhi standing motionlessly at his side. The other siblings were gathered at the opposite end of the long table, whispering to each other.
Is that true?
Yes. Maria said the person who gave her the umbrella was father.
What in the world? In other words, our strategy has collapsed from the roots.
Not just our strategy. Since father is healthy and has said that he'll make an announcement herself, our trivial bargaining with Nissan was completely pointless.
Yep. That old bastard. Why couldn't he have just shown himself right away without making a show of it? Thanks to that, we've just been quarreling with Anarchy uselessly.
Or maybe he wanted to test us on that point. I might not be one to talk, since we aren't related by blood, but your father is very intelligent, correct? Our arguments during the day were probably overheard by one of the servants and reported to father. Incredible. The fact that we were making a fuss with father's inheritance as our goal is now right in the open. Just incredible. Ava uncharacteristically held her head, dejected. If, as Kyrie had said, everything had been going according to Kinzo's plans from the beginning, and if this was a huge setup that had been kept up for over a year, trying to find the siblings' true intentions, then they had fallen for it completely. We still don't know for sure that it's reached father's ears. No, it definitely has. Everyone but Nissan claimed that father was dead, and none of us believed in father's good health. It's already over. Father will make an announcement. Nissan will become the successor, and he'll say we aren't even qualified to wear the one wing. I'm gonna uncharacteristically check the character screen, because a point of clarification I don't know. Or I don't remember, I guess I should say. He leads the family conference of the other siblings think he is trying to get the inheritance straight attention. I think this might have changed since earlier episodes now that I'm looking at them. Based on what Ava just said, he was not actually named a successor yet. I think an earlier version of this profile said it was thought he would be named successor because he was the eldest, but that even he had not actually been given any security on that. Which seems to be implied by what she just said. Nissan, get a hold of yourself. Rosa-san, I wonder if Maria really received that umbrella from father. Huh? What do you mean? Maria-chan might have seen father. However, we haven't seen him. Maria-chan only claims to have seen him. What are you saying? Are you saying Maria's lying? Calm down, Rosa. Maria-chan didn't necessarily lie. Still, she's an innocent kid, right? For example, if Genji-san came up to her and said something like, I was told by your grandfather to hand this to you, Maria-sama, then even if Maria-chan hadn't met Dad, she still might say that she got an umbrella from him, right? That's right. That trick could work. But what was it Maria-chan said? Grandfather came and handed me the umbrella? Yes, that's what she said. She clearly said that she received an umbrella directly from grandfather. Directly, huh? Then we're stuck. They often say that bad thinking is no better than sleeping. If you think about it a bit, all of this about the umbrella is a trivial problem. Why is that? Couldn't Maria-chan have been bribed by Nissan to lie and say something that made it seem like father was in good health? There is no evidence that father actually handed the umbrella to her. Regardless of whom Maria-chan received the umbrella from, assuming she was even given an umbrella in the first place, father will appear very soon. Once father's in front of us, the problem with the umbrella will become completely trivial. In other words, this is not the time to gossip about the umbrella issue. What do you mean, this isn't the time? I see, I got it. This is probably what Kirie-san's saying. Father is supposed to come here very soon, but the chance still remains that he'll get mad again and won't show up, right? I see. That's true. Maybe Nissan just said father was going to appear at random in a desperate bid to buy time against our investigation. Father really is dead already, and Nissan is still lying and saying he's healthy. In short, if Father appears, then no schemes will be effective. There's no need to even think about that case. We're fish on the chopping board. We'd have no choice but to leave fate to the heavens and negotiate directly with Father. That means we'd have no choice but to let him clobber us with his fist, then prostrate ourselves and beg for money. But on the other hand, if Father doesn't appear, then our primary strategy isn't hampered in the least. I see. In short, no matter which way it goes, there's absolutely no need to get flustered now. That's it. If Father shows up, we just have to carry out the normal family conference. If he doesn't, we just have to keep on investigating Crash-san.
We can't let him talk his way out of it. Like if he says Father's mood has suddenly gotten worse.
It seems what we really should be trying to figure out is what scheme Nissan is going to try and to trick us with. The way he just doesn't know how to give up is something I know better than anyone. If Father is well, we'll prostrate ourselves and beg for money. If it's a farce of Crash-san's, then we'll continue our ugly sibling fight. It sounds like this year's family conference is going to be just wonderful.
Yep. So, bad thinking is no better than sleeping, huh? It's almost 10 o'clock. Should we press anarchy?
Rudolph and the rest looked at Kraus. He was sitting down firmly, and he looked like he was awaiting Kinzo's arrival with an air of composure. They couldn't tell if he really was composed or if he was scheming about how to tie together his lie. Dear.
Calm yourself. We won't get anywhere by making a fuss after all this. Let's leave it to Genji-san.
It's almost 10 o'clock, isn't it? That was the time that had been set for tonight's family conference to open. And it was the time that the Ashuramiya family head needed to appear. Right then, they heard the sound of footsteps approaching from the hall. There were multiple sets. Natsuhi raised her head, relieved. But because of the sound of a knock, her expression was filled with disappointment. Because Kinzo probably wouldn't have knocked. Please excuse us. I have finished closing up the mansion for the night. It was Goda and Kumasawa. Unlike the powerful Goda, it was rare for Kumasawa with her old body to be forced to work this late. Of course, Kraus also seemed to know that.
Indeed. Good work. My apologies for making you work at such a time, Kumasawa-san.
Oh, it's nothing. I may not look it, but staying up late is still one of my specialties. Wouldn't it be okay to at least let Kumasawa leave without being an observer? It really will be difficult on her body, I imagine.
The order was to gather all of the servants as well. I cannot disobey.
Tonight's family conference was clearly different from normal. On a normal year, no one was allowed to attend except family members. To have the servants present for such a thing was unthinkable. But this year was different. All of the servants were told to attend. Of course, they were not allowed to talk. They were there as observers. Just what in the world was happening that needed to be observed by 5 servants? Even Kraus didn't know. Ho 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 ho. I don't look it, but I'm good at staying up late. If you stuff yourself with mackerel too, Kraus-sama, you'll be more manly at night. Ho 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 ho. I see you're still in high spirits. I'm sure you'll be working in such high spirits until you're 100. Madam, forgive my arrogance, but I have prepared a light snack. I can serve it at any time, so feel free to order it. Thank you. You really are considerate. Please offer refills of coffee to the others. Certainly. After nodding, Goda took the pot towards the relatives gathered at the other end of the table. As he did, more footsteps approached from the hallway. It was a single set, and it was light. Even before the knock, they could imagine who it was. Excuse me. I've taken the children to the guest house. Good work. Tonight is a special evening. Make sure you stay alert. Yes, certainly, madam. Genji had gone with Kanon to meet Kinzo. There was still no sign of their return. The hand of the clock passed 10 o'clock slightly. Once sure of that, Ava spoke to Kraus. Nissan, it's time. Are you still not going to start the family conference? The arrival of the guest of honor has been delayed. Wait a short while. How long? Sorry, but time's up. I won't have you saying father hasn't quite shown up yet over and over until dawn. How could I make a promise about the time father shows up? Why are you in such a rush? Why not drink some tea and calm down for now? Anarchy, we're gathered here for a family conference, not a farce. We'll wait 30 more minutes. But if that doesn't work, you'll let us break into the study, okay? But break into... such an action would be quite lacking in respect for the head. Alright, our apologies. We'll be good for 30 more minutes. I look forward to seeing if you can keep that same smile up 30 minutes from now. So you honestly believe that father is dead? I have no desire to discuss that now. You can wait until father comes here. There's absolutely no need for me to argue you down, Nissan. You assure me a head will be passed on to the proper person in the proper manner. No matter what you may ski, you cannot resist. Of course, the same goes for me. What are you trying to say? And after bragging all these years about being the successor yourself? I'll turn your own words back on you. I have no desire to discuss that now. All that matters is for father to come here and proclaim it with his own mouth. There's absolutely no need for me to argue you down. Right? Kraus casually turned Ava's words back on her. Of course, that added oil to Ava's anger. But it didn't ignite, because, in that instant, the sound of a very loud knock rang out. Both Genji and Kanon were usually very reserved when they knocked. They wouldn't hit the door with such a violent strength. It was like a judge's gavel slamming down in a call for silence. So, everyone went quiet. The door opened slightly, and Genji showed himself. Then he spoke with a serious tone, different from his usual one. It wasn't the tone he used when carrying out his duties. It was the tone he used when speaking for Kinzo himself. So just by hearing Genji speak like that, the siblings were struck with a sudden tension. Take your seats, everyone. At those words, the dining hall was wrapped in total silence, and everyone hurriedly returned to their designated seats. It was as though students who had been bustling around just before homeroom had suddenly returned to their seats when the teacher came. And it might even have looked humorous. But there was no way anyone would joke about it. Everyone sat in order, and Shannon, Goda, and Kumasawa stood up straight in a row by the wall. The head of the glorious Ciconia family and Lord of Rokkenjima, the island that sparkles gold, Lord Shuramiya Kinzo, has arrived. Of the double doors that led to the dining hall, Genji opened the right door from the inside, and Kanon opened the left door from the outside. And, welcomed by a respectful bow from those two, majestically fluttering his cape, Kinzo appeared. Kinzo's gait had a dignified weight to it, and it was hard to believe that he had reportedly been at the end of his life. Genji pulled back Kinzo's seat and motioned for him to sit. But Kinzo stayed standing, signaling with his chin for Genji to move back.
Welcome to Rokkenjima, ladies and gentlemen. Why the frightened face, Ava?
No, why would I be frightened? I'm just relieved to find you in excellent spirits, Father.
Ava, you're as amusing as ever, aren't you? Why don't you just honestly say how frustrated you are at losing your bet with Kraus? You can't say it, can you?
Ava realized that their conversation during the day had indeed been leaked to Kinzo, and she hung her head, turning red.
Well then, my sons and daughters and their companions. Tonight, I shall make an important announcement regarding my inheritance and the succession that you all seem so keen on. But first, I must tell you how incredibly disappointed I am. After all, until this very day, no one has been able to solve the riddle of the epitaph.
Even though Kinzo said he was disappointed, a condescending smile rose to his face, as though there was no way the likes of these could have solved it, and his gaze passed through all of them.
I had planned to hand over everything to the one who could solve it, but none have been able to solve it before today, and here we stand, with nothing of mine passed down to anyone. How shameful! To think that not one among you has come forward with the qualifications to succeed me. How truly disappointing and shameful and pathetic.
The siblings hung their heads in silence. Of course, they would have solved it if they could. True, they couldn't deny that they'd wasted a golden opportunity, but it was just so hard.
Therefore, I am proclaiming here and now that I will suspend the use of the epitaph's riddle as a method of choosing my successor. In short, time's up. This is game over. And what a shame for you all. even though it should have given you all an equal and fair chance. That's gone now.
It truly sounded like Kinzo was making a victory proclamation.
In that case, will my oldest son Kraus succeed the headship? The answer is no.
What?
You understand, right, Kraus? I certainly gave you the title of successor, but all you did was let it go to your head. Do you know what a successor is?
It means the person who will inherit your position after you, father.
Wrong. The position of successor isn't something that's guaranteed by the current head at all. Listen up, Kraus. I won't tell you this again. A successor is what you call someone who finds everyone else who's after the headship, thoroughly breaks their noses and makes it so they can never disobey him again. This is not only something that can be said of the headship, it's the same with money. A rich person doesn't mean someone who has money. It means someone who crushes everyone who had more money than himself, and who scrabbles together more money than anyone else. It's the same with talent. A genius is not what you call a person blessed with talent. It means a person who crushes everyone with more talent than themselves. A person who can coerce geniuses and all other people to call them that using strength and charisma. You have a mistaken impression when it comes to all of these things. So, you aren't of the right caliber to be my successor.
I'll take your words to heart. Perhaps that truly was Kinzo's philosophy. As a result of faithfully carrying out that rant-like philosophy of his, Kinzo had glorified the Ashuramiya family to the state it was in today. It may be hard to imagine after his immersion in the occult in recent years, but that brutally overbearing outlook was no more or less than Ashuramiya Kinzo's charisma and aura.
Such an unsatisfactory person is not qualified to inherit everything of the Ashuramiya family. In that case, is Ava, Rudolph, or Rosa qualified? Again, no. You were unable to solve the riddle, and you are also unable to use a scheme to drag Kraus down. All the three of you managed to do was gather together in a united front to try and extort money from Kraus. And even that scheme was thoughtless. You can't even corner Kraus all by himself. There could be nothing more shameful. You lack the avarice to steal away the position of successor by any means. In order to get what you want, you should sacrifice everything, becoming as covetous and greedy as possible. The goddess of luck smiles upon the greedy. You three, who don't have that wild spirit, are as unfit for the succession as Kraus is.
Ava and the rest had no words to respond with, and they couldn't calculate what it was Kinzo was about to say. Was Kinzo actually planning to proclaim that no one would succeed the headship? If so, that would work to Ava, Rosa, and Rudolph's advantage. After all, in the end, they'd just have to renegotiate everything among the siblings after Kinzo's death, splitting the inheritance evenly. It would surely be more troublesome if a specific person's name was raised and proclaimed to be the successor. But would Kinzo really say something to benefit any of the 4 siblings after demeaning them so much? You don't think he's going to say that because no one will succeed him, he'll donate all of his fortune to charity or something, right? I'm afraid I wouldn't put it past Father. The blood's just risen to his head. We can't do anything but let him talk for now. Well then, Father, what thoughts do you have regarding the succession of the headship?
Since I am so utterly disappointed in all of you, I've lost the desire to hand it over to anyone. Therefore, the Ashuramiya family will end here. It ends with my generation.
That cannot...
The Ashuramiya family was crushed long ago in that earthquake. The current Ashuramiya family is nothing but an illusion of gold and glimpsing for an instant, the likes of which will end when I awaken from my slumber. Everything in this world is a dream, an illusion. Life is but a daydream before the awakening called death. Ah, yes, that's how it was from the beginning. That I should lose everything when I die was part of Beatrice's contract and her curse. As if I'd let you, Beatrice. I will be the one who captures you. Tonight, that goal will be realized.
For a while, Kinzo was overcome with cackling, and his eyes bulged. Whenever he talked about Beatrice, it was always both eloquent and insane.
Foolish children such as yourselves truly are daydreams. It's as though you were never there from the beginning. Disappear, wake up. Disappear from the doze of the truth that I am. You failures that have not built up anything that makes you worthy to succeed me.
Kinzo-san, if I may.
What is it, my friend?
Nanjo nervously raised his hand, asking to speak. Kinzo allowed him to. I understand how you feel, Kinzo-san. Because you love your children, you expect a lot of them. And as a parent and grandparent myself, I understand how parental affection can make you feel as though your expectations were betrayed. However, you are extraordinary, Kinzo-san. A genius. Isn't saying that it's only natural for them to catch up to you a little too harsh? Despite that, Kraus-san, Eva-san, Rudolph-san, Rosa-san, and all of their partners have done their very best to catch up with you.
Ho ho! And just how much money have they built up with this doing their best? After these cowards failed completely in ventures and gained debt, and still tried to sponge off me, how can you say that they did their very best? Money is the crystallization of everything in this world. If you cannot grasp that, then you cannot grasp the world. If a life cannot strongly grasp this world, it doesn't deserve to live. Disappear. Disappear from my life and reality.
That's a reckless argument. With that logic, even I must not live. Even so, I believe the time I spent playing chess with you was worthwhile for both of us, Kinzo-san. You should know better than anyone else that there are many things in this world that cannot be bought with money. As the siblings motionlessly hung their heads, they cheered Nanjo on inside their hearts. Not one of the siblings could offer their opinion in front of Kinzo in a rage, but Kinzo's close friend, Nanjo alone, was allowed to. Even though Kinzo had raged so fiercely, after being admonished by Nanjo, he nodded several times as though in agreement. This surprisingly obedient side of him might have seemed cute, but there was no one here who could laugh. It may be true that your children haven't built up as great a fortune as you have, Kinzo-san. Though, even so, they're rich enough to make me jealous. But besides money, they have also built up many things that cannot be bought with money. When it comes to that, they are in no way inferior to you, Kinzo-san. Oh, and what do you claim they have built up that cannot be bought with money? Happiness. Family. They have found wonderful partners, had children, and each has built up their own happy homes. They have glorified your family name and have brought back grandchildren. Grandchildren are wonderful. We older people can look at these young grandchildren who will live on into a new era that we will not even be given a chance to see, and in them we can imagine an endless future. Isn't that the sole entertainment we have in our old age? Remember, Kinzo-san. Remember your joy when they first brought back their grandchildren. Your children and your grandchildren will carry your great works on to future generations, setting an example. That is something that an individual cannot accomplish, no matter how much money they have. The siblings all nodded in agreement. Certainly, Kinzo had looked happy when his grandchildren had just been born, back when he still had some sanity in his heart. However, did Kinzo's heart still contain a human's warmth? In other words, in exchange for the vast riches I created, instead of gaining money, I have gained my grandchildren? No, that's not what I... So, in exchange for the several tens of billions in wealth that I have built up, I have gained a single grandchild from each of my children. This is wonderful. So, I have created a single life using 10 billion yen. That's how it is. Interesting, truly an interesting example in the alchemical sense, right? Oh, what valuable grandchildren. Wonderful, wonderful. Is that right, Kraus? Is your daughter worth 10 billion yen? Kraus couldn't answer instantly. It wasn't that he didn't have confidence in his daughter, it was because he didn't have a clue what Kinzo was trying to test him with in this question. But when Natsuhi was then pressed for an answer, she responded, breaking Kraus's silence with an answer of her own interpretation. Yes, Jessica is a daughter I wouldn't let go of even for 10 billion yen. In that sense, I believe she has a value that can't be measured with money. Oh, so you can state for certain that she's worth 10 billion. Ho ho. What about you, Ava? What about your George? Since Natsuhi had answered that way, Ava naturally came up with her own answer as well. Even though Ava should have known better than to respond to a provocative question like this, she answered as well. Yes, father. George is worth 10 billion. No, even more than that. And that's not in the abstract sense of things money you can't buy. George will certainly build up a fortune equal to his worth. He'll become a grandson worthy of carrying on your great works, father. Ava sent a glance at Hideyoshi and Natsuhi as if she'd scored a point. When she heard what Ava had said, Natsuhi was about to add more praise for her daughter, but stopped at a glare from Kraus. I see.
Then what about you, Rudolph? What about your battler? Compared to George-kun, there's nothing my battler I can brag about. If he was kidnapped and we were threatened with a ransom of 10 billion, I'd feel like sticking a bow on the guy and letting them have him. On top of that, he's an idiot and reckless. He talks about grand dreams and things that couldn't be done. I guess in that way, he's a super idiot worth the equivalent of 10 billion normal idiots. But I'm sure that guy could do things that even a group of 10 billion average people couldn't do. Well, I'm pretty sure he'd fall flat on his face. The world isn't easy. But at the very least, there's no doubt that watching over his life will be more fun than looking at 10 billion average people.
Ava clicked her tongue at that clever style of speech, which would probably match Kinzo's tastes. Apparently, Rudolph had done that on purpose, so he grinned back at her.
What of Maria?
Maria is my adorable and only daughter. Her value cannot be measured with money. That is all.
I see. Dreams in the future, miracles and possibilities are the source of my magical power. No magic without hopes holds any strength. I cannot expect any more from you who have proven to be average. But I see, my grandchildren hold future possibilities, and expecting a magical miracle from them may be worthwhile. If you're saying that, in this way, they are worth more than 10 billion, yes, I can see where you're coming from.
When Kinzo got in a rage, he wouldn't let anyone speak up. But even so, he would sometimes accept something on his own while yelling by himself, and change his own opinion. That's what this felt like to the siblings. Apparently, even though Kinzo had been disgusted by his unsuccessful children and cast them away as being unfit for the inheritance of his title or his fortune, he wasn't sure about his grandchildren. At this rate, he might soon say that the inheritance would go to his grandchildren instead of the siblings. As the siblings sat in fear of what their fickle and short-tempered father might suddenly think of next, they carefully watched his every move.
Let me change my thinking a little. I have absolutely no desire to hand over all I have to any of you. However, it will be quite interesting to question the grandchildren to see if one of them is qualified. I've always thought of them as mere kids, but there's a chance I'll find a shining gem amongst them that will catch me off guard. And testing them for that would be... Yes, it would be a shame to abandon that final side trip in my remaining life. Well then, what shall I do?
I can with confidence recommend George as someone fitting to follow after you. Ava claimed that right away. Nazi, he looked like she was about to follow along, but Kraus gave her a look, telling her to restrain herself, so she swallowed her words.
How bold. Then let us do this. I will individually question the grandchildren to see if they are qualified to succeed the Ashuramiya family inheritance and wealth.
Father.
However, that does not mean that one of you will indirectly receive the inheritance. I am already disappointed in you all. There is no longer anything I have to give you. Not a thing. The ones I will question are my grandchildren, and the ones who might succeed me are my grandchildren. make absolutely sure that you do not mistake this. Understood?
I shall obey Father's decision. Same here. I'll go along with what he decides. What about you, Aniki? Of course. I believe Father will make a wise judgment. I will also obey Father's decision.
I shall think of how to test my grandchildren, which means this is no longer any business of yours. After all, none of you are involved with the succession in any way now. So right here, right now, perhaps we should discuss a different matter that does involve you.
A different matter?
Indeed. That is tonight's true purpose, and the true purpose for this final Ashuremia family conference as well. I have no desire to hear your thoughts and opinions. I demand only your assistance. Assistance in my ceremony.
Your ceremony?
Quiet. Father's talking now.
Rudolph and the rest had automatically narrowed their brows at the occult-like word. Could he be planning to start some strange ceremony involving Beatrice's resurrection again? And he wanted their assistance? What in the world was he planning to do? In the past, he had carried out many eccentricities that he called by the same name, such as starting to burn a strange incense and filling the whole mansion with the stench. To the siblings, a ceremony was nothing more than one of the aged Kinzo's obnoxious hobbies. Father, just what do you mean by that? If we can assist you, we'll do anything. Right, Rosa? Yes, but what in the world is it?
A ceremony as inscribed in my epitaph. A ceremony to revive Beatrice and open the door to the Golden Land. That witch who escaped her cage of flesh and sneeringly slipped through my fingers, I shall now capture and force into submission with my greatest hidden art. For that purpose, I must offer 13 people as sacrifices. Gathering 13 people's worth of sacrifices is no easy feat. But tonight is the family conference. Many adults who have gathered on Rokkenjima. There could be no other day on which to carry out this ceremony.
Taken literally, it sounded like he was telling them to become human sacrifices for his dark ceremony and die. Ridiculous. Was it some kind of metaphor? But they didn't even have a clue what he was trying to illustrate. The siblings whispered together about what Kinzo was saying. What's Dad going on about? Is this his usual sickness? Probably. Listen silently for now. I'm sorry, Father. I don't understand what you mean by that.
What is it you don't understand? I am making this extremely simple. I told you that I'll choose 13 of the humans on this island and offer them as sacrifices in a ceremony to revive Beatrice. Even worthless people like you can be very useful as sacrifices in my ceremony. Listen, this is not a joke nor anything of the sort. This is my final bet, my final ceremony, the last one I will desire in my life. There are now more than 13 humans on this island.
In short, that's a head count that can easily satisfy the massive number of sacrifices I require. Become the sacrifices for my ceremony.
Kinzo-san, you weren't serious about what you said back then, were you? It wasn't a joke? Unusually for him, Nanzo's face changed color as he stood up and shouted. It seemed this wasn't the first time Nanjo had heard all this dark talk about 13 sacrifices.
Sorry, my friend. That was no joke nor anything of the sort. It is what I bet my life on. The final ceremony. The final game that I will attempt. Yes, this is a game. If gaining my fortune and leaving the island is your goal, then there are only 2 ways to achieve it. Will you escape being chosen as one of the 13 sacrifices and spectacularly survive by finally solving the riddle of the epitaph and stopping the ceremony? Or will you kill me and thereby stop this ceremony? Those are your only 2 options.
By now, everyone wasn't just whispering, but chattering and muttering away. Even the siblings had noticed that Kinzo was beginning to act abnormally.
Father, are you a little tired?
Genji-san, has father been drinking?
No. The master is sensible. Sorry, Dad. I don't have a clue what you're talking about. Dad's free to start up any weird ceremony he wants to revive the witch he loves. That's his hobby. But getting wrapped up in that and being made into a human sacrifice is a little more than I can handle.
Rudolph, are you trying to interrupt father?
What are you talking about, Aniki? You expect me to listen to something that shady and say, "Oh, really?"
Was the ceremony Kinzo had... Was the ceremony Kinzo had mentioned literally something disturbing, or was it some kind of test to choose the successor? It seemed that Rudolph had taken it literally, but Ava apparently still believed that it was something like a test or examination to find a proper successor. But Kinzo responded with a clear smile.
Well then, that is all I have to say. No objections or opinions are necessary from you. I will simply awaken from my dream of having 4 unsuccessful children. To all of you, what will occur now before your very eyes may seem like a dream, an illusion, something that couldn't conceivably be of this world, and a world that defies understanding. But that itself is my reality. Now, I will finally awaken from the shallow, useless dream that all of you are. Come, the game has already begun. See? With this many of you here, I can take lives starting with anyone. So long, my unsuccessful children. And for the final and only time in your lives, be useful for my ceremony. Arise, Pendragon's memorial troops.
When Kinzo raised his arms high like an opera singer and yelled as though towards a packed audience, the air shattered like glass, and the outlines of 3 people who supposedly hadn't been invited to this island appeared. Chester 45 right here. Chester 410 right here. Chester 00 right here, sir. Oh. So these... I believe this was here before. But 00 is new. Chester 00, a weapon of the Sisters' cavalry, which serves Pendragon. 00 is their calm and composed leader. However, this is merely the role demanded of her, since she's far more frail by nature. 00 excels at reconnaissance and serving as an advanced guard. Sorry. 00 excels at reconnaissance and serving as an advance guard, displaying extreme supremacy in unexpected encounters. However, her excessively powerful fighting strength has been called inhumane, and it isn't rare for her to be lynched and abused when she surrenders on the battlefield. Her one eye silently speaks to that. Okay, now I want to leave. 3 girls with strange forms suddenly appeared behind Kinzo. Where from? When? Who? Who were they? The humans were thrown off balance, and their minds went blank. Because they spent all that time thinking, they lost their last chance to survive.
You have permission to shoot 6 to death. I leave the choice of targets up to you. Begin your attack.
Unrestricted firing, understood, sir. Thank you for granting us such excellent targets. Everyone, commence unrestricted firing. First one in. Yep. Yeah, haha. When 410 scratched the air with her finger, a golden bow appeared in empty space and she pulled its string. The golden arrow that had been readied there was fired off without any hesitation, flew around the room, leaving haphazard gold curves everywhere, and chose Natsuhi from among those sitting at the table of the family conference, pulverizing the left half of her face. Flesh and deep red blood scattered around, leaving massive red splatter marks on the relatives' faces and the pure white tablecloth. Silence fell. Despite the massive number of deep red spots left on the tablecloth, no one could understand why Natsuhi's head was half smashed, nor why she was hanging her head as though dozing while sitting. And they watched on in silence. Those sitting on Natsuhi's right-hand side were silent for a relatively long time, but those sitting to her left were not, because the people sitting on that side had been shown how her head had been smashed open like a watermelon or a pomegranate, and could even see inside her. Natsuhi.
One down. Natsuhi, is it? A luckless woman to the end. Next.
00, firing. After scratching the empty air in the same way and readying her bow, 00 fired as well. After it flew around and around at high speeds like the golden arrow 410 had released, drawing a convoluted curve in the same manner, it smashed half of Rudolph's head in the same way as he looked at Natsuhi in shock, killing him instantly. This time, everyone managed to avoid freezing up mentally. They realized that a fearsome murder had started playing out right in front of them, just as Kinzo had said. And they realized that Kinzo would probably kill even more. Whoa, yeah! Shrill screams burst out. Even so, they didn't know what to do, so they could only keep screaming and flapping their wide open mouths like goldfish. Father! What do you think you're doing? You fool! Run now! as Eva asked Kinzo that in total shock. Hideyoshi, who had come to his senses faster than anyone else and risen to his feet, pulled at her arm from behind. However, merciless fate's choice for the third sacrifice was Hideyoshi. Just like the two before him, half of Hideyoshi's head was neatly smashed, and the right side of his head, which had happened to be facing that direction at the time, had been blown away with its contents exposed like a watermelon or a pomegranate. So, still holding Eva, Hideyoshi slumped backwards and fell down. Still held by her beloved husband, Eva fell over backwards with him. Dear? Dear? Eva screamed. It was only natural. The face she had been looking for had been half lost. And the crushed skull, the mashed brains, and the crushed jaw all lay bare. 45 impact, it's a hit.
Spectacular. Fire again. 3 more remain.
Father, what is this supposed to be? When Kraus stood up forcefully and was about to rush Kinzo, 00 blocked him. With her slender-looking body, she held back Kraus with just the palm of her right hand. He still tried to resist and attack Kinzo, so 00 lifted Kraus by the nape of the neck and twisted into his Adam's apple with her thumb. It seemed to be very painful, and Kraus was overcome with agony.
Everyone, run! Get the police! An ambulance! Quickly! Everyone, let's escape! Escape!
Nanzo's sharp words finally dissolved the spell that had been holding them down in their chairs. When Goda and Kumasawa each tried to escape from the dining hall first, 410 moved in an instant and appeared there, blocking the way. Nyeh? You sure are slow. Nyeh. Did you think I'd let you escape? Nyeh. Help me. Goda-san, duck. Even though Goda didn't understand, he crouched when he heard Kirya's sharp voice. Then a burst of air rushed above his head. Kirya had taken a big swing with a chair to mow 410 down. But 410, still with a mocking expression, easily caught that widely swung chair with a single hand. Shh. What a scary woman, yeah? You really want to go the same way as your husband that much? From the cuff of her arm where she had caught the chair, something like a shining gold snake appeared, wrapped itself around the chair, and burst open. It was a fearsome power, like a vice. And Kirya realized that the being in front of her, which looked like a girl, was actually something that surpassed human knowledge and that a human could not even begin to oppose. Her head was filled with a fierce alarm bell that welled up from deep inside her. Genji, Shannon, and Cannon, all of the servants permitted to wear the one-winged eagle, continued to stand calmly at attention by the wall, even with a scene like this before their eyes, making them look very bizarre and eerie. For an instant, Kirya thought that they'd managed to stay calm because they were the enemy, and had been given a guarantee that they wouldn't be killed. But as soon as she thought that, the side of Genji's face was blown away before her eyes. Genji-san! 45, impact, it's a hit!
Ho ho, Genji, how unfortunate. Rest in peace, my friend. Your death will not be wasted. You will become one of the 13 keys, essential to the resurrection of my beloved witch.
The half of Genji's expression that remained was as indifferent as ever. He tilted, fell over, and sent a blood-red splatter out across the floor. Genji-sama, we're nothing more than the witch's pieces. Nothing more. Nothing more. From the meek and frustrated, no, resigned expressions on Shannon and Cannon's faces, one couldn't sense any naive hopes that they'd be rescued. That's right. Kinzo was, in the truest sense, carrying out these murders at random. In the truest sense, he was killing like it was a game to see who would be saved and who would be killed. Well then, who'll we go for next? Yeah? 410 looked at Kyrie for a second. In that second, Kyrie was prepared for her own death. When she readied her golden bow in midair, 410 was looking at someone else over Kyrie's shoulder. So, as imprudent as it was, Kyrie felt as though she had been saved. Again, an ugly, exploding, popping sound rang throughout the room. Who was it this time? When Kyrie turned to face the direction of the sound, she saw blood gushing like a fountain, and Ava lying on her husband's chest. Of course, her face had been half smashed, just like her husband's. 410 had mercilessly targeted Ava as she clung to her husband's corpse, sobbing. Let go of Nissan! Let go of Nissan! Just stop it, father! Just stop this brutality! Run away, Rosa! Rosa's objection didn't reach Kinzo as he continued to laugh loudly in the blood-spattered dining hall. And she wasn't able to lessen Kreis's pain of being lifted up by the nape of the neck by 00. So Rosa had no choice but to use force. She lifted up a chair beside her and gave a warning. Father, order her to let go of Nissan. Just stop them from doing this.
I cannot. If that is what you desire, then prevent it using your own power. Cut a path through to your own fate with your own hands. Yet you who have always hid behind the backs of others in fear, let me see you overcome your weakness one last time in your life.
Father. Ah! The chair that Rosa had lifted up swung down at the father who had reigned as a symbol of terror for her entire life. It was the greatest and final act of bravery and self-control in Rosa's life. What Kinzo had said might have been true. If she had grasped that courage much sooner, her life might have become more free, unrestrained by anyone else. Then there was a bursting sound. The sound of Rosa's chair fiercely hitting Kinzo. Could not have been this. With the chair still lifted up, she neatly lost half of her head and slumped over. Still holding Kraus up with one hand, 00 had struck her other hand out towards Rosa. The golden snake released from that arm had constricted Rosa in a helix and had smashed into her head. Defensive firing. I apologize for the discourtesy of shooting so close to you, sir.
I care not. So this makes 6 people.
Yes, Lord Goldsmith. This makes 6 people. When she indifferently communicated that, 00 let go of Kraus, whom she had been lifting up this whole time.
Indeed. So the sacrifices of the first twilight were Ava, Rudolph, Rosa, Natsuhi, Hideyoshi, and Genji.
It was a massacre that happened in an instant. The interior of the dining hall had been dirtied by blood spatter, and the 6 unlucky victims lay with their heads brutally exposed. In a way that was fitting for that abnormal space, Kinzo's abnormal laugh alone echoed out.
The curtain has finally risen. The ceremony to revive Beatrice has begun. You lucky ones who have managed to escape the first twilight, allow me to introduce you to my friends. Arise, my friend. Run away.
Oh, an update for Runaway. Just to put him on this page, I guess. Runaway, one of the 72 great demons, works for a master in exchange for various forms of compensation. He currently has a contract with Beatrice as her butler, head furniture. He's become proficient at housekeeping after serving in many households, so his ability as a butler is very high. I think that's all actually old. I think it's the same as before. Pleased to meet you, everyone. And good day to those of you I haven't seen for a long time. And a good day to those of you I haven't seen for a long time. It seems this place is once again spectacularly untidy.
Pay it no mind. It takes a stimulant of this level to wake me from my daydream-like days. Allow me to introduce my friend, a reliable butler and one of the 72 great demons, Runaway.
I am pleased to make your acquaintance. Just who was he making that introduction to? Kraus and Kyrie, who are still down on their backsides, and Nanjo, Goda, and Kumasawa could only look up at this middle-aged gentleman they didn't know in shock. Only Shannon and Cannon seemed to recognize him, and they bowed deeply. So, I wasn't able to greet Genji. I hope he was at least able to fulfill his purpose painlessly. It was an instant death from a direct hit to the head. He didn't have time to feel the pain. Is that so? Very well.
Allow me to introduce another friend. Arise, my friend, Virgilia.
Once again, a silhouette of someone the relatives didn't know appeared from empty space. She appeared in a refined dress while making an elegant greeting. Thank you for summoning me, Master. Although I would rather not have been summoned into a bloody place like such as this.
Allow me to introduce her too. This is both my friend and a reliable counselor, Virgilia.
There's Virgilia's too. Let's do a quick check, but... Oh. Interesting. Yeah, now retired. It doesn't mention anything about Kinzo, so I'm pretty sure these are just the usual ones, but being put onto this page. But we've seen them before.
I desire to borrow your great power as the Witch of the Finite. Lend it to me.
Even if I tried to refuse, such a thing wouldn't be permitted, for one subordinated by the power of your summonings. As you wish, master. Still, what a fearsome fellow. To think he summoned 3 of the Chiesta Sisters' Corps, then me, and even Virgilia. Even though it's only in the area of summoning, to think that he surpasses Milady so thoroughly. How frightening. I can't help but shudder at the Ashuramia blood.
In order to carry out Beatrice's resurrection ceremony, I shall give it my all as a summoner. This still isn't enough. In order to perfectly succeed in the ceremony this time, I shall summon more. The Pendragon Memorial troops, and Runaway, and Virgilia. I can still call more. With my magical power, I can still call many more. Answer to my summons. One of the 72 demons, Garp.
Garp? You can even materialize her? It probably means that the corrosion has advanced even more on this island. It had already proceeded far enough to materialize us. By now, we shouldn't be surprised no matter how great a demon he summons. Has Rokkenjima already been completely sucked into a parallel world, then? I hope he does not surrender. He learned a lot last time, correct? After all, this time he won't surrender over this much. Probably, I should say. Well then, shall we enjoy the stage we now stand upon? It seems the main character is the master this time. Let us expect a script of a different flavor than Milady's. When Kinzo strongly concentrated his magical power, a pale light gathered in the empty air, twisted, and a magic circle was drawn there with a deep red glow. And with a sound like glass breaking, a new demon could be seen there.
You did well to answer my call. Garp, one of the 72 great demons.
This is new. Garp, one of the 72 great demons, also Beatrice's friend. When a magician demands it, she grants the ability of instantaneous movement. She uses this extraordinary power for playing pranks mostly. Her specialty is hiding keys and bags during busy mornings. However, in the context of closed room mysteries, this power becomes... However, in the context of closed room mysteries, this power becomes an ultimate weapon. It can easily strike a finishing blow. Her queen bee strikes are likely to pierce Annie and all detectives, forcing them to surrender. This is one hell of a place you've summoned me to. Did you call me to clean up this bloodstained room? Goldsmith? The literally devilish woman, wrapped in a venomous, ominous costume, looked at the scene which should have made her cover her eyes and twisted her mouth in a grin. To summon you for such a reason would be like using a cashmere muffler to mop the floor. It's been a long time, Garp. To think that a great demon such as yourself has finally appeared on this island. Perhaps this island is finally submerging completely into fantasy. This all-star cast is even more surprising than the gruesome state of their room. A full 3 Chiesta sisters, the great demon Runaway, and the great witch Virgilia, and even me. What's going on? Is this pandemonium? Are you trying to start a concert from hell or something? I see. As a conductor for that, I couldn't think of anyone better than you, Goldsmith.
I will have your assistance as facilitator in the completion of my ceremony to resurrect Beatrice. You have no objections to my summoning contract, correct? Of course not. There's no way I could resist the subordinating power of the legendary Great Summoner, Lord Goldsmith, who forced the famous Great Witch Beatrice to do his bidding. I'll assist you, although I will of course ask a fitting price. So, what's my first job? Capture the cowards who made it through the first twilight. Fortunately, there are still 7 here, aren't there? Nanjo, Shannon, Cannon, Goda, Kumasawa, Kyrie, and Kraus. Oh, if these 7 are all offered as sacrifices, that's exactly 13 people. Until it's time for the second and later twilights to be carried out, throw them into the cage of sacrifices. A cashmere mop, huh? Understood. As Gop shrugged her shoulders, she looked at Kraus, who was still down on his butt. She glared. Then, when she snapped her fingers, Kraus was swallowed up by the floor, as though a round pitfall had opened up beneath him. One down. There was no hole in the floor, but it had certainly looked as though Kraus had been swallowed up by a hole and disappeared. Searching for her next prey, Gap's gaze crossed Kyrie's. She snapped her fingers. Kyrie jumped back as though repelled. Her instincts had been right. After all, in the place where she'd been until a second ago, a round jet black hole had appeared, the same kind that had swallowed up Kraus. However, before she could catch her balance, another pitfall appeared and swallowed her up. Even Kyrie had no way of eluding Gap's capture. Whoa! When she snapped her fingers again, a shocked Nanjo was swallowed up by the floor and disappeared. When she did it again, 410 let out a short yell and jumped back. This time, a slightly larger pitfall had opened, swallowing both Shannon and Cannon, who had been standing in a line by the door. But because 410 had jumped away from the door, the way was no longer blocked. Instinctively aware that he would be next, Goda dashed out through that door. Of course, Kumasawa also escaped with lightning speed, chasing after Goda. As Gap snapped her fingers over and over, round jet black pitfalls opened one after another behind them, chasing them. However, they did nothing but drive the recklessly fleeing pair away and couldn't swallow them up. Goda and Kumasawa had escaped in a matter of seconds. I've gotten slow. I let 2 get away. Don't worry, we're currently locking on to the escapee targets. Data link ready. Shall we snipe? No, I cannot authorize that. They are precious sacrifices. Wait for the Master's authorization. Great Lord Goldsmith, we await your orders. It is still too soon for the coming of the second twilight, is what the source of my magical power is whispering to me. It must not be now. Let them do as they please. It isn't as though they can escape from this island. The source of the Master's magical power is noise and risk and tests of luck. In other words, it means being fickle, it would seem. Perhaps you could also put it that way. Good work, Gap. Let us steadily advance the ceremony from here on. Well then, that is that. Next are my grandchildren. I will test them to see whether they are qualified to become my successor. Let's see, how shall I test their qualifications? If you decide that they're qualified, do you intend to abandon Beato's resurrection? Of course, and despite that, I will test them. Perhaps a woman cannot understand that contradiction, nor my madness. Well, apparently men are as weird as ever. I don't get the very concept of playing around with risk. Oh my, and I thought you loved that sort of thing. Of course. If a man whispers to me about dangerous risks in love, I go head over heels. But only if he's hot. Be quiet. Try to refrain from whispering. Truly noisy women. But at least they aren't boring. This is what makes summoning so pleasant. All of you will bear one side of the scales of noise and risk in my ceremony. That is the work I expect of you. 6 brutally murdered corpses lay in the dining hall, and it was contaminated with red, gruesome decorations. It was now unimaginable that, until just a second ago, 13 humans had been arranged here in a well-organized manner. Kinzo lined up the famous demons and their subordinates, loudly declared the beginning of a night of overwhelming mass murders, and swore to himself that he would certainly revive Beatrice and open the door to the Golden Land. Sorry to keep you waiting. Now the curtain finally rises on the first twilight. That Kinzo, I see he loves being flashy as usual. So even that man, who can be more persistent than anything when he follows you around, can shine so when on the stage. Damn, always killing in a grotesque way as usual. Smashing half of their heads. The bad taste you witches and demons have always pisses me off. Smashing half of their heads. I see. So she's realized that in the games up until now, that's been the most ideal method of killing. Ideal? How is such a grotesque way of killing ideal? Isn't it though? Trying to remember the very first game. You. So you're that new demon or whatever that just appeared. Damn, so does this mean that the witch's corrosion continued and there are now even more creeps wandering around? The more the witch's corrosion advances, the more Rokkenjima tilts towards the spirit world. That's why strange, insane people keep appearing one by one. This island has been closed off by the typhoon, so no human can leave it, much less appear as a new character to increase their numbers. But the more the corrosion advances, the more witches and demons can appear without limit, increasing one by one. By now, there might be more demons than humans among the characters appearing in this insane tale. Their numbers might be the thing that represents this mad corrosion. Yeah, I'm sure that's true. And the corrosion hasn't just affected the number of people, but apparently their fashion sense as well. If the corrosion advances any further and even more weird people appear, just what in the world will they be wearing? It's so scary I can't imagine. Seriously, give me a break. Don't make these weird guys increase in number anymore. I can't do that. They'll keep increasing more and more. I'll defile the foolish
closed circle rule humans speak of over and over again. Welcome to my elegant game, Gop. It's been a long time, Riche. Have you been well? Why do I ask? You look great. Have you gotten younger? You look 200 or 300 years younger than when I last saw you. Oh, I see. The demon grandfather had summoned and introduced as Gop took a glance at me and then grinned as though she'd figured something out on her own. That smile felt openly obscene. I guess she's Beato's friend, which means she's gotta be a creep among creeps. By the way, they were saying something about a closed circle or whatever. What does that mean? Serial murder mystery novels that occur in places isolated from the outside world, like Rokkenjima is now, are sometimes called closed circles. Since such a place is isolated from the outside, it's like a circle that is closed. Therefore, in general, the characters and suspects are limited in number. Having new suspect candidates added on one after another from outside the circle goes against the etiquette of mystery novels. In other words, the witch is probably trying to desecrate humans in the mystery genre itself. You're Gretel? I see. You look like a wise kid. I love kids like you. You taste so sweet and tantalizing. Gross. Keep the jokes to your clothing. It's devilishly pretty's newest Jack the Ripper Christmas blood. Sorry for having a style that a country bumpkin from the human world couldn't understand, okay? At least we know it's well ventilated. Why don't you add a gap to the head part as well? A little air into your brain. Gop is always sensitive to the fashions of the spirit world, but this year's fad truly is bold. I think I'll order one sometime. For you, Riche, I'd recommend Ali Gray, Alice in the Graveyard. Let's go to 666 sometime soon and to look at the clothes. You really should drop by the spirit world every now and then. When this game is over, I'll be sure to do that. Still, your two opponents are pretty cute, Risha. It looks like this kid has figured out the meaning of the corpses with their heads half smashed. Know what that is, girl? Just now, she told me to remember the first game. What did that mean? Just what it sounds like. Remember the first Twilights of the very first game? When the adults' corpses were found in the gardening shed with the magic circle drawn on it? Remember? Episode 1. The First Twilight. Kraus, Rudolph, Kyrie, Rosa, Shannon, and Goda. All 6 of them had their heads pulverized and died. At that time, there were 2 types of corpses. Some had their faces pulverized and some had half of their faces pulverized. That's right. The ones with their faces smashed were Rudolph, Kyrie, Rosa, and Goda. The ones with the sides of their heads smashed were Kraus and Shannon. At the time, I fictly created 2 types of corpses, but I realized that the former, more atrocious type was actually disadvantageous for me. Disadvantageous for you? I see. So that's what this is. That's right. The smashed faces might look atrocious, but that made it hard to confirm the identity of each person. For example, at that time, Uncle Kraus and Shannon Chan had their heads half smashed. That alone was atrocious enough, but because half of their faces remained, it was easy to confirm their identities. But Dad and the other three were different. Because his face had been completely destroyed, even I, as his son, could only guess by inference that it had to be Dad because of his clothes and the like. In short, it remained vague until the end whether that really had been Dad's corpse. If this reasoning battle had taken place during the first game as well, I would probably have claimed that since the identities of Dad's and the rest's bodies were impossible to confirm, there was a possibility that one was a fake corpse. After all, Beato didn't say anything in red during that game. Well done, correct. The fake death is one of the basics of the mystery genre. Even if you make a doctor examine a corpse, you can't trust the results if you suspect him of being the culprit's accomplice. Therefore, corpses that can't guarantee a death for certain are always disadvantageous for the witch's side. You can suspect fake deaths for all corpses, hypothesizing that one or more of them is the culprit for the crimes that follow. It's a move Battler doesn't like, but it's the most elementary move to use against a witch. Yeah, that's right. And that's why Beato started using the red. With the red truth, she can carry out a perfect autopsy. That's how it is. Normally, for the first Twilight. I would use the red truth right away, confirming the deaths of these 6. However, as you know, my battle strategy this time is the complete opposite of previous games, and I'll now use red truth starvation tactics. Since you use it as a grounding from which to counterattack, I will not use the red easily. I'll make you come apart at the seams by using red in just a single place, as rarely as possible. In the end, it means I will permit all rants regarding your guesswork for all the closed rooms, and I only have to smash one of those once, with the red truth. Even though you've always teased me, once I start counter-attacking, you now hole up back inside your shell. Quit kidding around. At any rate, I do not want to use the red. I want to be stingy. I want to bully Battler. But how could I guarantee a death for certain without using red? I worried and worried over it. Then Gop gave me an idea. It truly is a simple method. I just pointed out something obvious, that you hit upon the idea, Rishi. I simply said that you only had to create corpses whose identity could be distinguished, and whose complete death would be understood. In short, I put those two things together. The face, which is necessary to distinguish their identity, and the pulverization of the head, the vessel for the soul, which is the perfect symbol of death. When I put those two parts neatly together, wonderful! I came up with the perfect answer of corpses with their heads half smashed. I'll bet you love two-colored bread and two-colored ice cream. You're just like a greedy kid. At any rate, even if half of their heads are smashed, we shouldn't assume they're dead at this point in time. I get it. Since Beato is trying to act tough and refusing to say anything in red, we've got to suspect everything. Of course, I'm definitely not going to swallow the theory of magical mass murder by the Chiester-ass Nichans. You sure have gotten prudent. If this were the first game, you'd have swallowed everything. I wouldn't have anything less from a rival. Since there is fortunately no red now, He can imagine whatever he wants and reason over and over again as he likes. At the very end, at the very sweetest spot, I'll cut him down at once with the red truth. And we start off the Twilights with a bang. That was obviously quite a long one, but this is kicking the events and really marking the turn from a lot of the backstory we had been getting. And we might still get more, but I think we're going to be dealing with a lot of on Rokkenjima events for the next while. That's all for this episode. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time.